What is going on, gunfighters? Welcome to Gunfighter Life, where we talk about guns, gunfighting the right way with Almighty God at the center, Judeo-Christian values, and real-world first-hand experience. I'm not going to go into a lengthy bio. I've been blessed by God to be saved, be brought into the fold of God, a servant of God and a follower of Jesus Christ. I've also been blessed to be a professional gunfighter most of my adult life. Most of you have heard the bio before, so I'm going to forego it. Recently, when my wife and I went to live in Alaska, we came back. Our vehicle had been parked in a locked, gated, guarded facility, and it somehow got broken into, and a bunch of guns and gear went missing, which really stinks. If you want to help support and raise some money to get some of that gear back, there should be a Venmo link in the show notes. Patreon and or Venmo. Patreon if you want to support the show. If you just want to throw a couple of bucks, Venmo. That would be great. But either way, don't feel like you have to. Feel like you get to if you want to. And if not, don't feel guilty about it. But your support would be appreciated. Anyway, a bunch of stuff got stolen. But on the bright side, it gave me time to reflect on stuff that I really should replace or substitute, and stuff that I really wanted to get back because it was important, stuff that I had used a long time and really liked. And so why not share that with you guys? Why not turn this into a blessing for you guys? I'll go over some of the gear that I've written down that is really good, that I've used over long periods of time, that I really, really like. Now, I don't want you to get the wrong idea. Not all of this stuff was taken, but some of it was. And some of it just got me thinking about stuff that I still have that I really appreciate. My go-to AR. After having several guns taken out of the back of my truck, I wanted to put a good AR again in the back of my truck. And it made me realize, and I did a whole episode on this one about, I think, how so many new ARs miss the mark. And my go-to fighting carbine that has been that way for well over a decade. I've used it in law enforcement, used it in more specialized roles, used it as the commander of a tactical team to stop active shooters, used it as a go-to gun for a lot of stuff, a go-to AR. And that is an Adams Arms Evolite. And this predates all the key mod and M-Lock, but it has a Samson rail, which I really like. You can mount the stuff on it you need to mount on it, but otherwise it's pretty minimalistic. It's got a pencil profile barrel, which is hard to find in a good quality, like nitrided barrel. I really like that. It's crazy accurate. It's a really good all-around AR. Tell you how much I've shot it. It's been back to the factory once for some barrel work, and then I think I'm on my second or third trigger. The last one got worn out wearing the parts out on the trigger, which did let you know how long I've had that gun. It now has a Geisley 2-stage flat trigger. I actually prefer a single-stage flat trigger, but I was in the middle of a training class when the trigger went out, so that day on the way home I bought a drop-in trigger from a place that I could find that had one in stock, and that's not bad. I prefer a single-stage flat, but a double-stage, a 2-stage flat is not bad, but just a really good trigger. And mounted with the same optic that's been on there, I think, since I got it, at least for well over a decade, and that's the Leopold Mark AR. But a good Leopold low-power variable optic is just fantastic, and I've been running that optic a long time. In fact, I run Leupold LPVOs on many of my go-to hunting rifles. I buck the trend. A lot of people like the 3-9s or even heavier. I don't. Especially for spot and stalk and still hunting and like practical hunting ranges, I like an LPVO. And Leupold LPVOs, whether it's on a hunting rifle, a guiding rifle, or a good go-to AR, that is just a really good, simple, don't need batteries, rock solid, dependable AR optic. That Leupold Mark AR, now that they don't even make that scope anymore, but they do make the VX Freedoms, and those are really, really good. If you're looking for a good crossover hunting tactical scope, I would recommend another scope, and it's the VX Freedom, and it's got the Hogplex reticle. It's just got more reference points, and it's a good practical thick reticle. If you want something with a little bit finer reticle, then get the old classic duplex. There's nothing wrong with that, but that's just a good go-to, like, do anything except for specialty roles. Like, obviously, if you want like a super long range precision AR, this is not the one. But if you want a really good AR for doing CQB and or doing medium range stuff or designated marksman roles or going out and hunting coyotes, it's fantastic. And just looking at getting another AR, which I'm blessed to have. I just got another AR and I got a good deal on a used AR. I'm about to go out and I spent a lot of time cleaning it. It was filthy. I'm about to see how that thing shoots, but just made me appreciate how good that go-to AR is. On that, and looking for mags. PMag, there's nothing wrong with a PMag. It's kind of the standard. I also really like Amend 2. And again, PMags are the standard, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about those, but the Amend 2 mags, they're just really good AR mags. I've heard various things about their Glock mags, but why are you shooting Glock anyway? I'm just kidding. But the Amend 2 AR mags are rock solid. They're a good mag. I like them, and I say they're every bit as good as the older gen PMags. The newer gens, they have the window, which you may find an advantage, and they also have the cover on the top, which for long-term storage you may find as an advantage. But as far as practical feeding goes, they are good magazines. And also on the optics, one that I have, and I'm about to mount it on the new AR because I have it. And I've had it for years and years, which reminded me how good it is. Not super expensive. It's been on a few different rifles. And it's the Burris 3-9. I think it's the full field 2. They may be on a newer generation, but that Burris scope is really, really good. I've hunted all kinds of critters with that thing. I've used that thing a ton. And I'm about to put it on 1 or 2 different rifles. Blessed to have some new rifles to replace some of the stuff that got taken, and or just change up the arsenal. And I want to do some group testing to see, even though that's not the optic that may live on there, I want to do some good group shooting testing to see what kind of ammo those guns like, because I don't want to stockpile a bunch of ammo the guns don't like, because also a lot of ammo got taken, and that really hurt. Like, a lot of stockpiled ammo got taken, and that's a sad day. But I don't want to stockpile ammo that a gun doesn't like, right? That doesn't make a lot of sense. What point is it to stockpile ammo if it doesn't hit where I'm shooting at? I might as well just throw it away, or sell it or something, or use it for barter. But as far as a gunfighting tool, if the ammunition does not shoot well out of that gun, what am I doing? So I'm about to go, by God's grace, do some group testing today or tomorrow, depending on what time I get done with this work. The joy of podcasting, and we'll see. But I'm going to put that scope on there and probably put it on another rifle as well, just to get some group testing in. It's a fantastic scope. It's a good all-around longer range hunting scope. And 3-9s are not generally my go-to for hunting, but that one I've had so long, and there's no reason to replace it. It's a fantastic scope. And one of the guys asked me recently in the chat about the Burris, and that's a rock-solid scope. Has been for a long time. I don't even remember if I think somebody may have given it to me a long time ago, or like we did a rifle trade and it came on the rifle. It's just a good scope. Here's another one, gun adjacent. The GPS range bag. This is one of the ones that came with me to Alaska to house a bunch of the stuff that I took, handguns and ammunition and gear, and I use it all the time. And I've used it for a long time. And it's the GPS range bag. What's kind of unique about it is it's got several vertical slots in the bottom that hold your handgun and keep them protected. So I don't have to worry about it. Like literally throwing them on the ferry, throwing them in and out of vehicles, literally my wife opening the car door and them falling on the ground in the bag. I don't really worry about it. It is what it is. That kind of stuff happens. But that bag, I've had it for a while now, and that thing is held up really well. It's really well thought out. It's got dedicated like magazine pouches on the side. It's got enough to pretty much carry a basic tool set, and I forget if it's 4 vertical handguns. If I'm going to the range, obviously I'll probably have my EDC concealed carry gun on me, which is either a SIG 226 or a SIG M17. So I'll have that one on me, but I might have my training 22 in there. I might have my other handgun in there. I may have some other stuff in there. It's just a general go-to range bag, and it's really, really good, that GPS range bag. Highly recommend it. I've had several range bags. It is by far the best range bag I've ever had. And even if it gets really heavy, it has 2 nice straps. You can carry it like a backpack. So if you were like hiking somewhere to set up a range, which you can do out west, especially on like good open BLM land, it's nice that it has 2 straps instead of just one like a sling bag. Because with a lot of ammo and stuff, obviously it can get pretty heavy. Now here's one that really hurt. And this is, well, my body armor got taken. I haven't replaced that yet, but I have started replacing the war belt. Took my war belt. The one that I used for so long and the commander of a tactical team, and the one that took kind of years in development and building, I think, to get it exactly where I wanted it. And I'm starting to build it back again, and it kind of made me realize, one, how much expense goes into that and how much time goes into that. I've run a lot of different kit and a lot of different jobs, but when I get my choice and I get to pick my own war belt, and since I was the commander, I got to write the policies and procedures, I would let guys run pretty much what they wanted as long as it was a fairly similar color, that coyote brown or whatever color you want to call it. But here's what I settled on. 511 makes a really good Cobra buckle, thick reinforced belt. That's my inner belt for this. And then I like to run that through an outer padded, what I call a war belt or a battle belt. My wife jokingly calls it my fanny pack. Not a fanny pack. It's a war belt for men, but my battle belt that holds my battle gear. I prefer to run fairly slick body armor. I might put 1 or 2 things in my body armor, but for getting in and out of positions in urban fighting, I generally like the fairly slick armor on top. I might throw a rifle mag or 2 up there, but generally pretty slick on the top. But I like most of my stuff on my war belt. Maybe it's all the years I spent in law enforcement or the misery that was carrying a lot of stuff in my body armor in the Marine Corps, but that's a setup that I like. And for that, if you're carrying quite a bit of stuff on your war belt, I like that big, thick, padded outer belt. 511 again. And I've tried a couple of different things, but that 511, I believe it's called their combat belt. It's a big, thick outer belt. I couldn't find it anywhere except actual 511. I couldn't find it on Amazon or anything like that. And they're not cheap. The inner belt, I think, is like $70-some, and the outer belt is like $70-something. If I thought there was something better, cheaper, I would recommend it. I don't. Caveat, I'm a fairly in-shape guy. I'm blessed. My waist is quite a bit smaller than my chest. If you are a bigger, heavier guy, you may want less padding because you already have padding around your midsection. If you're fairly skinny hips, fairly skinny waist, and you're rucking a lot of weight on that waist belt, on that war belt, you might want that bigger, thicker, padded belt. I like them a lot better. I've tried the thinner belts. Some guys like them. I don't. But that 511 inner and that 511 outer, it's just really thick and padded, and it kind of rides in the right place, and it's got quite a bit of, I call it like lumbar support, back support. So again, when you're carrying a lot of weight, which you start adding handgun, pistol mags, rifle mags, handcuffs, all that stuff, it can get pretty heavy pretty quick. Thankfully, I don't do a lot of YouTube videos, especially compared to podcasts, but I did one not that long ago on the war belt, so it actually helped me out because I could go back and look and see how I like my war belt set up. But a couple other key things on there. I used for a lot of years, and they got taken. ASP handcuffs, have not replaced those yet, but I really like the ASP handcuffs. The ASP handcuffs are good because they are polymer and metal, much like a lot of modern handguns, but they are lighter, they are very strong, and if you're doing tactical stuff, it's nice that they have a handcuff key and double lock key on both sides. That may mean anything to you, but if it does, you'll know how important that can be. If you're in a hurry, somebody's wrestling with you, and you get the handcuffs on upside down, it's just easier to have the thing on both sides. Those ASP cuffs are nice. So if you're looking for a nice pair of handcuffs and you have the freedom to choose, those ASP cuffs are kind of really good cuffs. Also, ASP makes a really small, and that's ASP. I realize what that might sound like, but ASP, ASP. They also made a really good collapsible baton. I think it's called like the Executive or something. That was also something I kept in my war belt. I kind of miss it. It's a little small collapsible baton. When it's closed, it's about the size of a fully loaded, normal capacity pistol magazine. Probably a little bit lighter too. But it can be a pretty formidable melee weapon when, deadly force is not authorized. If you want a pretty concealable, collapsible baton, if it's folded up, you can use it real quick like a coup baton to make some space. If you have time to deploy it, it's a pretty formidable melee weapon. So if you're looking for something quite a bit smaller and lighter than the actual big ASP batons, That executive, it's made with lighter materials. It's smaller, but it's still, it's a lot more, gives you the ability to project force a little bit farther than with just your fist. And it's also a force multiplier. So if you're looking for something like that, that ASP Executive Baton is legit. Use that thing a long time. Don't have it anymore. Replace this stuff sometimes a little by little, but it was a fantastic baton, so I'm going to go ahead and recommend it. Another thing that I really like on my war belt, and you're going to be like, you can't recommend Condor, but I'm going to recommend Condor because I tried a lot of different setups. Condor makes a 308 magazine pouch. If you look up just like Condor 308 magazine pouch, you should see the one I'm talking about. It's a 308 magazine pouch with a really simple but really useful bungee mechanism on the top. So when I was a commander of a tactical team, depending on mission, I might run my SCAR 17 308. I might run an AR-15. I may only be running a pistol that day, depending on the mission. What's awesome about these magazine pouches is I can put in a SCAR 17 magazine or an AR-10 magazine, and it'll hold it just fine. I can also put in an AR magazine and tighten up the bungees, and it'll hold the AR magazine just fine, especially the 20 rounders on my war belt, which is how I generally run the mags on my war belt, because if I run the 30s, it limits my mobility, and I don't like that trade-off on the firepower versus mobility equation. On my chest rig, I'll run a 30 rounder, but on my war belt, I'll run a 20 rounder. It'll run those just fine in that same magazine pouch. And here's the kicker. If I'm only running a handgun and I want to run more mags, I can put the bungee down the center and tighten it up, and now I have 2 additional for every 1 308 magazine pouch handgun mag pouches. And that's awesome, right? And they're just a good size. You can put all kinds of other stuff in there. I also use one of those, or did use one of those, for my handcuff pouch. You can put handcuffs in there. It's about the right size for handcuffs. And you've got that bungee to keep them secure, so when you're rolling around fighting, they're not going to come out. It's just a really good all-around magazine pouch. I think they come in doubles. I don't know if they come in a single, but I've done it, and I probably will do it when I get the new ones. I'll probably just cut one if I just want a single. You can cut them in half, and they work just fine. But they come in a double, and they're not that expensive as you would expect from Condor. And I ran those for a long time, and I never wore one out. So yeah, those Condor 308 magazine pouches, they're kind of a really good all-around. So if you aren't really sure how you're going to run your war belt, you got to go to a training class or whatever, maybe get a couple of those, put a couple on there, keep 1 or 2 in reserve so you can move them around. You probably want a dedicated pistol magazine pouch for your go-to quick reload. On that note, Alien Gear makes a really good clip-on, like hard tiltable magazine pouch, which also got taken and I haven't replaced yet. But unless you know how you want to run that first really quick reload, you might want a dedicated pistol magazine pouch for that. But other than that, those 308 Condor mag pouches are just really good all around. You want to run an AK, you want to run an AR, you want to run a SCAR 17 or a Springfield M1A on the same war belt, they'll do it. It's a good, versatile, consider it like the Swiss Army knife of mag pouches. Also, I mentioned quite a bit of ammunition got taken. One of my go-tos that you can actually find at a lot of stores, and I know works well because I've tested it, is the Hornady Frontier hollow point boat tail match. If you want a really good round, you got to test it out of your gun to make sure it expands and all that stuff. But I've seen it do some pretty good terminal performance on real living things. I'm talking animal. Going back to my professional hunting and guiding days, it's a good round. It's affordable. It's available most places. So when I went to get more ammo, that was kind of one of my go-tos. Again, assuming your gun likes it. It's certainly not the best, most accurate ammo, but it's pretty accurate for what it costs. It's a good all-around ammo. That Hornady Frontier hollow point match. Not overly expensive. I think it's really well priced for what you get. Also, quite a bit of 9mm went away, and kind of my go-to for that, and has been for a long time. You know I harp on, if you've listened, getting a training round that shoots the same point of aim, point of impact as your defensive round. Well, one thing that I really like is the whole thing that Spear did with their Spear Lawman, and they do this in different grain weights, but my go-to is 147. So you can get Spear Lawman 147 grain, which is a really good, accurate, in my experience, ammo for handguns. Really good, really reliable. And that's meant to be kind of a training aid analogous to the 147 grain Spear Gold Dot or Spear G2. Same kind of bullet profile, meaning it should feed the same ballistics, same velocities, all that stuff. And it's a really good option. So I just wanted to recommend that ammo since I've been using it for years and years, and when it came time to replace that ammo that got taken, the Spear Lawman, again, I like 147, but they make it in different grains. If your go-to is 115 and you run 115 grain Spear Gold Dot hollow points, you can do that too. But the Spear Lawman is a really good option. Anyway, on that, I guess I'll start wrapping that up. I just wanted to throw this out there. God willing, I'll have some future gear reviews coming up since I had to replace some stuff and not everything is the same as what I had. Hopefully I'll have some cool and good gear reviews, but if something's really bad, I'll let you know. I take no bribes on this show. I take no sponsors on this show. I don't have a bunch of gun companies sending me a bunch of stuff. I've refused sponsors on this show. I don't want that. You shall take no bribe. I don't want to tell you to buy something because some gun company sent me something for free and it's just really bad. It's just horrible. Or it's not as good as something else that's comparably priced. But because they sent it to me for free, I feel obligated to recommend it. That's not me. That's not what you get here. If you want to support the show, you want to support me, again, there's a Patreon link in the show notes. You get a lot of cool insider content for that. But if you just want to give one time, you can just hit the Venmo link. Anything is appreciated. With that, your tactical tip of the day. It's either hunting season now or about to be hunting season where you live, depending on game species and locality. You're picking out hunting boots. This should be its whole own episode. But if you're not just the person that sits in a stand, but if you actually get out and walk around and try and spot and stalk hunt, really pay attention to the soles of that boot. And not just what cool tread pattern is on there or that it says Vibram or whatever. I don't care about that. But if I'm getting a stalking footwear, I want a flexible sole for a couple of reasons. They're generally quieter if they're soft and flexible, and if I step on something, I can feel it. If I step on a twig or a stick that might break, I can usually feel it and back off before I make a bunch of noise. With a hard, thick, heavy, rigid sole like it's on so many hunting boots, I don't like it. If that's the kind of hunting you want to do, I like a more flexible sole. So just consider that. Don't just make it an afterthought like, oh, this one's in cool Gucci camo and it's got whatever 100 grams of Thinsulate. Really think about the sole of the boot. That's what you're walking on. Again, if you're any kind of dynamic hunter, I guess I'll call it, spot and stalk hunting, anything like that, still hunting, a dynamic hunter, really give some consideration to the sole. And I don't just mean the tread pattern. I mean, like, is it good for walking quietly, and can you feel the terrain? Anyway, that's your tactical tip of the day. Your tactical verse of the day. Men, make sure we're watching and being ready. Hopefully that is part of the reason we have a gun. Like Jesus said, let he who has no sword sell his cloak and buy one. That is not the verse of the day. But last night when I was sitting down try and read the Bible with my wife, and I was reading Revelation. Don't read Revelation that often. I don't focus on it as at the expense of everything else. But this verse, and the dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. Both those things. Keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. You want to be the remnant? Keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. It's more important than all the guns and gear and cool war belts and body armor and all that stuff. Anyway, thanks for listening. Have a blessed day.